ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासुदि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, all right. So thank you all the devotees for giving me opportunity to serve you all. And today's topic is very interesting and very important also, because many people, in fact, devotees also, they have this question that why did Krishna had Raslila and affairs with the wives of other men? So how do we establish this fact, principally as well as in terms of lila also? So our acharyas, they have given brilliant commentary on this, and I think the session is not going to end today. It's going to take multiple parts because there is a lot of information that I'd like to share directly from the commentaries of the acharyas. So today we'll start, and then we'll see how long it can take us. But I would request all the devotees that while I share the commentaries of the acharyas, then just be very attentive, because the concepts are very important to. I think it will require some kind of concentration also. So kindly be attentive as much as possible. Okay, Hare Krishna. All right, so let's start with Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is the words that I've shared with you all, 2:4:20, and sharing on screen also. Okay, all right. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, fourth chapter, verse number 20. Shriyapati Yakyapati Prajapati Dhiyambati Lokapati Dharapati Patir Gatis Chandaka Vishnis Satpatam Prasiddhatam Me Bhagavan Satam Pati. Synonyms: Shriya, all opulence; Pati, the owner; Yagya, of sacrifice; Pati, the director; Prajapati, the leader of all living entities; Dhyam, of intelligence; Pati, the master; Lokapati, the proprietor of all planets; Dhara, the earth; Pati, the supreme; Pati, head; Gati, destination; Cha, also; Andaka, one of the kings of the Yadu dynasty; Vishnu, the first king of the Yadu dynasty; Satvatam, the Yadus; Prasiddhatam, be merciful; me, upon me; Bhagavan, Lord Shri Krishna; Satam, of all the devotees; Pati, the Lord. Translation: May Lord Shri Krishna, who is the worshipable Lord of all devotees, the protector and glory of all the kings like Andak and Vishnu of the Yadu dynasty, the husband of all goddess of fortune, the director of all sacrifices, and therefore the leader of all living entities, the controller of all intelligence, the proprietor of all planets, spiritual and material, and the supreme incarnation on the earth, the supreme all in all, be merciful unto me. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, since Sukdev Goswami is one of the prominent Gat Vyalikas who are freed from all misconceptions, he therefore expresses his own realized perception of Lord Krishna as being the sum total of all perfection, the personality of Godhead. Everyone is seeking the favor of goddess of fortune, but people do not know that Lord Krishna is the beloved husband of all goddesses of fortune. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the Lord in his transcendental abode Golok Vrindavan is accustomed to herding the Surbi cows. Is served there by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. All these goddesses of fortune are manifestation of his transcendental pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti, in his internal energy. And when the Lord manifested himself on this earth, he partially displayed the activities of his pleasure potency in his Raslila just to attract the conditioned souls, who are all after the phantasmagoria, pleasure potency in degraded sex enjoyment. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Sukdev Goswami, was completely detached from abominable sex life of the material world, discuss this act of the Lord's pleasure potency, certainly not in relation to sex, but to relish a transcendental taste inconceivable to the mundaners who are after sex life. Sex life in the mundane world is the root cause of being conditioned by the shackles of illusion. And certainly Sukadeva Goswami was never interested in the sex life of the mundane world. Nor does the manifestation of Lord's pleasure potency have any connection with such degraded things. Lord Chaitanya was a strict sannyasi, so much so that he did not allow any woman to come near him, not even to bow down and offer respects. He never even heard the prayers of the Devdasis offered in the temple of Jagannath, because sannyasi is forbidden to hear songs sung by the fair sex. Yet, even in the rigid position of a sannyasi, he recommended the mode of worship preferred by the gopis of Vrindavan as the topmost loving service possible to be rendered to the Lord. And Srimati Radharani is the principal head of all such goddesses of fortune. And therefore, she is the pleasure counterpart of the Lord and is not different from Krishna. Okay, once again. In the Vedic rituals, the recommendations of performing different types of sacrifice in order to achieve the greatest benefit in life, such benedictions as the results of performing great sacrifices, are after all favors given by the goddess of fortune. And the Lord, being the husband or lover of the goddess of fortune, is factually the Lord of all sacrifices also. He is the final enjoyer of all kinds of yajna. Therefore, Yagyapati is another name of Lord Vishnu. It is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita that everything should be done for the Yagyapati, Yagnartha Karmana, for otherwise one's act will be the cause of conditioning by the law of material nature. Those who are not freed from all misconceptions really come, perform sacrifices to please the minor demigods. But the devotees of the Lord know very well that Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all performances of sacrifice. Therefore, they perform Sankirtan Yagya, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, which is especially recommended in this era of Kali. In Kali Yuga, performance of other types of sacrifice is not feasible due to insufficient arrangements and inexpert priesthood. We have information from Bhagavad Gita that Lord Brahma, after giving rebirth to the conditioned souls within the universe, instructed them to perform sacrifices and to lead a prosperous life. With such sacrificial performances, the conditioned souls will never be in difficulty in keeping body and soul together. Ultimately, they can purify their existence. They will find natural promotion into spiritual existence, the real identity of the living being. A conditioned soul should never give up the practice of sacrifice, charity, and austerity in any circumstances. The aim of all such sacrifices is to please Yagyapati, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord is called as Prajapati. According to Katha Upanishad, one Lord is the leader of innumerable living entities. The living entities are maintained by the Lord, Eko Bhavanam Yo Vidati Kamam. The Lord is therefore called the Supreme Bhuta Bhrit, or maintainer of all living beings. Living beings are proportionally endowed with intelligence in terms of their previous activities. All living beings are not equally endowed with the same quality of intelligence, because such development of intelligence is the control of the Lord, as described in the Bhagavad Gita 15.15. As Paramatma Super Soul, the Lord is living in everyone's heart, and from him only does one's power of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness follow. Matasmriti Jnanam Apavanam Cha. One person can sharply remember past activities by the grace of the Lord, while others cannot. One is highly intelligent by the grace of the Lord, and one is fool by the same control. Therefore, the Lord is Dhyam Pati, or the Lord of intelligence. The conditioned soul strive to become lords of the material world. Everything one is trying to lord it over the material nature by applying his highest degree of intelligence. This misuse of intelligence, the conditioned soul, is called madness. One's full intelligence should be applied to get free from the material clutches. But the conditioned soul, due to madness, only engages his full energy, intelligence, and sense gratification. And to achieve this end of life, he willfully commits all sorts of misdeeds. The result is that instead of attaining an unconditional life of full freedom, the man conditioned soul is entangled again and again in different types of bondage in material bodies. Everything we see in the material manifestation is but the creation of the Lord. Therefore, he is the real proprietor of everything in the universe. The conditioned soul can enjoy a fragment of this material creation under the control of the Lord, but not self-sufficiency. That is the instruction in the Upanishad. One should be satisfied with things awarded by the Lord of the universe. It is out of madness only that one tries to encroach upon another's share of material possessions. The Lord of the
Excuse me, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, do you mind if you can go a little slow, if it's okay?
Actually, the thing is, If I go slow, then because we have a lot of content to cover. So
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
I think I probably had to select only 2 paragraphs from the entire purport, but somehow I felt that okay, let me just continue reading it. So all right. Lord of the universe, out of his causeless mercy upon the conditioned soul, descends by his own energy to establish the eternal relation of the conditioned souls with him, instructs all to surrender into him instead of falsely claiming to be enjoyers for a certain limit under his control. When it so descends, he proves how much greater is his ability to enjoy, and he exhibits his power to a power of enjoyment by, for instance, marrying 16,000 wives at once. The conditioned soul is very proud of becoming the husband of even one wife, but the Lord laughs at this. The intelligent man can know who is the real husband. Actually, the Lord is the husband of all women in his creation. The conditioned soul under the control of the Lord feels proud to be the husband of 1 or 2 wives. All these qualifications are different types of pati mentioned in the verse are meant for Lord Shri Krishna. And Sukadeva Goswami has therefore especially mentioned the pati and gati of the Yadu dynasty. The members of the Yadu dynasty knew that Lord Krishna is everything, and all of them intended to return to Lord Krishna after he had finished his transcendental pastimes on the earth. The Yadu dynasty was annihilated by the will of the Lord because its members had to return home with the Lord. The annihilation of the Yadu dynasty was a material show created by the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, the Lord and the members of the Yadu dynasty are all eternal associates. The Lord is therefore the guide of all liberties, and such Sukadeva Goswami offered it due respect with love-laden feelings. Okay, so the most important paragraph that is relevant to today's content topic is that the first paragraph, where uh, Prabhupada is clearly stating that all these gopis, they are actually the expansion of the internal potency of the Lord. Now, how they are expansion, that we'll discuss in detail. So let me also share another verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is also very relevant to this. All right, so this is from Madhya Lila 13.24. Okay, we are reading the purport of Srila Prabhupada in Madhya Lila 13 chapter 24th verse. So in this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that as an ideal husband, Lord Jagannath remained 15 days in secluded place with his wife, the supreme goddess of fortune. Nonetheless, the Lord wanted to come out of seclusion to give happiness to his devotees. The Lord enjoys himself in 2 ways known as Swakiya and Parakiya. The Lord's conjugal love in the Swakiya Ras relates to the regulative principles observed in Dwarka, where the Lord has many married queens. But in Vrindavan, the conjugal love of the Lord is not with his married wives, but with his girlfriends, the gopis. Conjugal love with the gopis is called Parakiya Ras. Lord Jagannath leaves the secluded place where he enjoys the company of the supreme goddess of fortune in Swakiya Ras, and he goes to Vrindavan where he enjoys the Parakiya Ras. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur therefore reminds us that Lord's pleasure in Parakiya Ras is superior to his pleasure in Swakiya Ras. In the material world, Parakiya Ras or loving affairs with unmarried girlfriends is the most degraded relationship. But in the spiritual world, this type of loving affair is considered the supreme enjoyment. In the material world, everything is a reflection of the spiritual world, and that reflection is perverted. We cannot understand the affairs of the spiritual world on the basis of our experience in the material world. The Lord's pastime with the gopis are therefore misunderstood by mundane scholars and word wranglers. The Parikyaras of the spiritual world should not be discussed except by one who is very advanced in pure devotional service. The Parikyaras in the spiritual world and that in the material world are not comparable. The former is like gold. Uh, the former is like gold and the latter is like iron. Because the difference between the two is so great, they cannot actually be compared. However, just as a knowledgeable person can easily distinguish gold from iron, one who has the proper realization can easily distinguish the transcendental activities of the spiritual world from the material world. Okay, so this is a basic introduction from Srila Prabhupada's purports, and so I think everyone must have understood till now that these gopis, they are not ordinary souls. They are actually expansions of Krishna's energy. Of course, not all of them, but some of them. And like as we know that there are sadhana siddha gopis and there are nitya siddha gopis, and then sadhana siddha gopis are further divided into the rishicari gopis, the munichari gopis, like that. Whoever is doing sadhana and who attains perfection. So this we'll keep in mind, and we'll go ahead. So now there is a very important description and analysis, wonderful analysis given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jai Dharma. And the entire philosophical truths is presented in the form of conversation between one disciple and guru. And that guru is basically, this is, and one thing you must know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Jai Dharma, is, it's actually, it's a fictitious thing. It is, he has described it. Of course, he has presented the philosophical truths, but in a digestible way for the common people. That's why it is in a form of question and answer session. And so the disciple is asking the guru most frequently asked questions related to this topic. And then Gopal Guru Goswami, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur chose Gopal Guru Goswami, whom you know that he is the disciple of Dhyan Chandra Goswami. Dhyan Chandra Goswami is the disciple of Vakreshwar Pandit. And Vakreshwar Pandit is the eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So Swarup Damodar Goswami was intimate associate of Mahaprabhu, and Swarup Damodar Goswami gave two paths. One esoteric part and exoteric. So we have already studied that in the topic of Raganuga Bhakti in ISKCON. Elaborately, we have covered all these things. So one portion, one party actually gave it to Vakreshwar Pandit, and that part that was given to him was exoteric path, external path, and that path Vakreshwar Pandit taught it to Dhyan Chandra Goswami, and Dhyan Chandra Goswami taught it to Gopal Guru Goswami. And the internal path or the esoteric path was taught to Raghunath Das Goswami. Okay. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur has chosen Vijay Kumar is the name of the disciple, and Gopal Guru Goswami, he has chosen that particular Nitya Siddha associate of Lord. So there's a conversation between them, and now you will get a lot of clarity from their discussion. Okay. So we'll go through the conversation one by one. We'll question and answer in the form of question answer. Okay. So Vijay Kumar is asking a question to Gopal Guru Swami. So Gurudev, Krishna is our eternal Pati, which means that he is eternally our husband. So why is called Upapati? Now there are two things. One is Pati and Upapati. Upapati means that he is the he's actually the paramour of the gopis who are married to someone else. Okay, so then Gopal Guru Goswami replies. So he says that this is a very confidential mystery, and actually these affairs are transcendental. They are like rare gems which are full of mystery, and the crushed jewel Kastub Mani amongst them, shining with intense aura, is Parakiya Rasa. So of course we have different ras, and we have 5 ras, and then Madhurya Ras at the topmost, but then Madhurya is divided into Parakiya and Swakiya. So as Srila Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Purport that Jagannath actually wanted to experience Parakiya Rasa. That's why the Rath Yatra is there, right? So that's how Parakiya Rasa is actually supreme. And why it is supreme, all these things will be clear. And who are these devotees, why this happens, everything will be clear. You just have to be attentive. Yeah, but it is definitely going to take a couple of sessions. It's because, I mean, you know, I can cover it up in one session. I can give the essence, but I think elaborately when I share with you, then I think you'll relish it more. So let's go ahead. So now Vijaya is asking that in Madhura Ras, the pure devotees, they serve and love Krishna as their Pati. What is the purport of worshipping him as one's Upapati? So now Gopal Guru Goswami replies. He says that, so when the Paratattva, supreme absolute truth, is asserted as exclusively impersonal, then Rasa necessarily has to be excluded from his nature along with his personality. So if you remember, I think we have discussed this in the class earlier sessions also, that Krishna is, so the absolute truth exists in 3 phases. One is Brahman, one is Paramatma, one is Bhagwan. And if you remove the attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the qualities of the Lord, then what remains is basically Brahman. So Bhagwan minus qualities is Brahman, because there is nothing else. Even Paramatma, now Paramatma displays some qualities. So he displays qualities in relation with the material world, whereas Bhagwan displays everything, all the qualities. So it also displays qualities in relation to the material world in the form of Paramatma, and as well as it also displays spiritual quality in the spiritual world. Okay, so if you remove quality, then you only are you only get Brahman, nothing else is there. So one thing has to be clear. But the thing is, now Gopal Guru Swami says that, but the Chandogya Upanishad says, Raso Vaisa, in the Chandogya Upanishad 8.13.1, it is said that the absolute truth is full of rasa, the personification of all ras. So now how do you reconcile it? Because if you want to include ras, then of course the absolute truth has to be personal. That means the quality has to be there. So the impersonal aspect of Supreme Lord is insipid, it lacks luster and spiritual bliss. However, as Krishna's personal feature unfolds before his devotee, rasa is increasingly manifested, because rasa is the principal aspect of the Paratattva. Higher than impersonal aspect of the Paratattva is the personal aspect of the Supreme Absolute Being. So being initially this personal aspect appears in the role of Ishvara, in the Supreme Controller, that is the object of Shantaras. So it begins with Shantaras. And then of course, as we go ahead, then we have got Dasyaras, then we have got Sakhyaras, we have Vatsalya, and then finally we have Madhuryaras. So basically this ras expands gradually from Dasya to Madhurya. And then within Madhurya, we have the Parakiya Bhav, paramour mood, and then we have the Swakiya mood. And paramour mood is actually superior to the Swakiya, married mood. So then now hear this also attentively. There are two aspects of Krishna as Purusha. So see, when we are saying that Krishna is Atmaram, because he is fully satisfied, then what is the need of enjoying with others? Because we want to exchange emotions and feelings with others, but Krishna is fully satisfied. So why he wants to enjoy with other living entities? So the answer Gopal Guru Goswami is giving here is that he says that Krishna exists in two forms. One as Purusha, there are two aspects of the Purusha. One is Atma Ramata, completeness and self-satisfaction, and other is Pararamata. Okay, so Atma Ramata and Pararamata. So these are two aspects of the same Purusha. Now, why two aspects? Now, what is Pararamata? Enjoyer of those separated expansion and energies emanating from himself. So why these two aspects are there? Because he is infinite. So all contradiction, they should resolve in Krishna. You cannot say that Krishna lacks something. If you say the Lord is lacking something, then it means that he is inferior to something, which does not make sense, right? So Krishna has two aspects, the Purusha, and in one aspect is Atmaram, another is that he is fully enjoying. So in the Atma Ramata aspect, the enjoyment of rasa is solely reposed within Krishna and takes no assistance from any other entity. So when the Lord accesses Atma Rama, then he is enjoying within himself. It is reposed, the rasa is reposed within himself, but he does not take help of any other living entity. And thus Krishna has the quality of being internally self-satisfied. In the Pararamta aspect, Krishna exhibits the nature of enjoying rasa by the charming assistance of other entities. So just as Krishna's Atmaramata aspect is eternal, so is his Pararamata aspect also eternal. So the harmonious existence of these two opposing elements, inner satisfaction and assisted enjoyment, in the personality of the Purusha is his sole prerogative and natural of him. So basically, we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is Achinta Bhedavet Tattva, right? And Achinta Bhedavet Tattva, it basically says that simultaneously one and different. Both things are there, but it is Achinta, it is inconceivable. Whereas the philosophy of Nimbakacharya is Swabhaviki Achinta, Swabhaviki Bhedabhed, which means that one and different, but it is natural for the Lord. So here also Gopal Guru Goswami is saying the same thing. All right. So in his pastime, Krishna is manifesting the Atmaramata nature in one sphere of activity, and another sphere he is displaying his Pararamata nature. The highest mood of Pararamata nature is displayed in pastimes of Parakiya Bhav. Parakiya Bhav is the wondrous, magnificent nectar which is produced when the Nayak means hero, and the Naika, which means heroine, are brought together by Rag, spontaneous love, even though their mutual relationship is Parabhav, the acceptance of one who belongs to another. Now, see, one thing we must understand that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur, he explains in a very nice way. He says that Krishna created everyone, so he is the owner of everyone, right? Now, when you are owning something, then you lose the intimate relationship, right? Because you become the master. So when you own something, you think that you are dominating others, or you are controlling others, or you have the right to control and dominate others. So then what happens? Love is restricted. But when the beloved gets the idea that my beloved is actually not the controller, he's not the owner, and he's my lover, then there is pure love which flows from the heart. Then there is no restriction, there is no conception of awe and reverence. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Saraswati Thakur says that Krishna also feels the same thing. So he feels that why should I be the owner? Instead, let the love flow spontaneously, naturally. So I will not be the owner. Instead, I will love my gopis, or my devotees, from a very informal way. And that's why we have this entire word lila. Okay, and then of course that's why we have the Parakiya Bhav. Now, if Krishna were to believe that he is the owner of the gopis, of course, in one aspect of lila, Krishna also does that. He also performs the pastimes of marrying some of the gopis. At the same time, he also marries the queens of Dwarka. So he has that understanding that, okay, I have married someone, and when you marry someone, then of course there is a feeling that you own someone. Okay, because you feel that the relationship has become formalized. So now it is like as good as saying that Krishna, it is Krishna's own potency that he is loving. So basically, that own potency that he loves is actually, in one sense, giving him some kind of feeling that, oh, I already own this potency. So what is new in this relationship? I would like to experience something different, something more enjoyable, and that's why he will enjoy with the gopis in Parakiya Rasa, thinking that he's not the owner, like that. Okay. Okay. So rasa springs forth beginning from the Atma Ramata feature. It starts with there, and then expanding upwards to the highest status in the Parakiya Madhurya Rasa. So thus the Atma Ramata feature is at the bottom of the rasa barometer. So when you consider the barometer from the point of view of rasa, then Atma Ramata feature is at the lowest, because there is only self-satisfaction. When the rasa slides down to the bottom, it begins to dry out. And when rasa moves upward in the direction of Parakiya Madhurya Rasa, it gushes with exuberance. When Krishna is transcendental Nayaka, how many Parakiya relationships we consider wild? However, when the mortal conditioned jiva tries to play the role of a Nayaka, the question arises whether his activities are moral or immoral. In this case, within the material world, the Parakiya Bhav is condemnable. The sages have therefore decided that the relationship between the mundane paramour and his unchaste lady love is certainly illicit and despicable. So one thing we also appreciate, understand, accept that Parakiya Rasa, of course, does not apply to the mundane world because it is contaminated. It is full of sense gratification, and it is immoral. It is not dharma, right? But how Krishna reciprocates with his devotees in Madhurya, in Parakiya Bhav, that we'll see, and how it becomes transcendental. So the finger of accusation should never be pointed at Krishna, because he is the repository of all transcendental rasa and is the supreme personality of Godhead beyond reproach, above reproach. Okay. All right. Next. So further, he explains that in Goloka, now we are going to discuss about Goloka and earthly Gokul. So one thing we need to understand that Goloka is in the spiritual world, and earthly Gokul means just by the name earthly Gokul. Actually, in the Acharyas, they use only the word Gokul. But I have used earthly because then you'll be able to understand that this is the Gokul in the material world. Okay, it is not in the spiritual world. But technically speaking, there is absolutely no difference between Goloka and Gokul in the earthly realm. So this one has to understand. Okay, so in Goloka, all perception is based upon pure spiritual consciousness. Thus, mundane perception is absolutely absent. For nourishing rasa, Krishna's Chit Shakti conjures up a wide variety of bhav. So one of the elements created by bhav is known as abhiman, spiritual self-conception out of transcendental love. Now, what is this abhiman? Abhiman is nothing but ego. Ego is nothing but identity. In the material world, it is the use of the word abhiman or ego seems that one has got some negative qualities. But in the spiritual world, that's our actual identity. What is our ego? What is our original identity? That's abhiman. Okay, that's the ego. Identity means that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So that's our ego. That's ego means that ego is pure ego, which means that we are actually part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As soon as we think that we are this body, then it becomes false ego, like that. Okay. So this conception that self-conception that I am married to someone else, that is existing in all the gopis in Vrindavan. Okay, in order to relish the Parakiya Rasa. So this is the beginning point. So Krishna in Golok is unborn and without a source. Right? You all accept that Krishna is unborn in Goloka. In the earthly realm, in Gokul, Krishna is performing pastimes where he takes birth and then he grows. But in Goloka, he is unborn. And he is without a source. So, which means that, of course, because everything is eternal in the spiritual world, so we cannot, of course, Achinta Beda Bed. So, Krishna is the son of Nand Maharaj and Yashoda Maya. At the same time, he is not their son from Tattva perspective, like that. Yet to embellish the lila eternal associates such as Nand Maharaj and Yashoda, they personally personified the Vatsalaras through their abhiman of fatherhood and motherhood, respectively. So this is one example of abhiman. Now, as I was sharing with you that Krishna in Vrindavan, one second. Okay. So as I was sharing earlier that this abhiman, the identity is present in all pure souls in spiritual world. And this abhiman causes one to think that I am Krishna's husband, wife or friend or this or that. Similarly, Yashoda Maya and Nand Maharaj also, they also feel that they have a conception that Krishna is my son. Although they have not given birth to Krishna. Because in the spiritual world, there is no birth. There is no birth, old age, disease, death. Right? So then how do they know that Krishna is their son? And that is provided by that ego, that abhiman. Okay. So this abhiman is there in Nand Maharaj and Yashoda Maya. So similarly, in Madhurya Ras or Shringar Ras, the dichotomy of Vipralamba Bhav and Sambhog Bhav are present as manifestations of abhiman. Actually, in Parakiya Bhav, the Parakiya Abhiman, self-conception, as paramour and Upapati Abhiman, the self-conception as a male paramour, are eternally in full play to embellish the lila, although simultaneously underlying relationship is of Shuddh Swakiya, pure conjugal union. So now what does this mean? It means that just like Yashoda and Nand Maharaj, they are thinking that Krishna is my son, and accordingly they are having pastimes. So similarly, in the spiritual world, the gopis, they have this conception that we belong to, we are married to some other coward men. Now, this is a perception. Okay. So one thing you need to understand, this is a very important principle. And if you get this, then I think you will be able to understand most of the things. One thing you need to understand is that in the material world, when we have a dream, we think it is real for the time being, as long as the body is not awake. Soon as we get awake from sleep, then we realize that, oh, it was a dream. So everything was actually a false thing, right? But in the spiritual world, the dreams also, or the conception also, or whatever you think in the mind, it's all real. Because in the spiritual world, there is no material conception, there is no material element present. So whatever you think as a conception, that is also manifested. Okay, so it may be manifested in their conception, but it's an eternal reality. Like for example, you are you are awake and still you are daydreaming. Okay, in the daydreaming, you are thinking of something else. You are thinking about someone and some activity and some things that you are doing, and you feel that it is real in the daydreaming. Okay, so it's like that basically. In the spiritual world, because it is not bound by any restrictions of material mind, material time, material space, that's why whatever they think, that conception itself becomes a reality. So this thing you need to understand. So basically what I'm trying to say is that both things takes place simultaneously. One is that Krishna is eternally married, you can say like that, and I will explain that further also. Krishna is eternally bonded with these gopis because they are all part of an internal potency, right? At the same time, Krishna is in his pararamata form. He is basically thinking himself to be the paramour lover of his gopis, and the gopis are thinking that the gopis are already married to someone else. Now, who are these someone else? That we'll discuss. Okay, that you will get a better idea as we go along with the flow. Okay, so in Vraj Gokul, however, these same Abhiman become apparently manifest in gross on mundane outward form because of the mundane notions of the viewers. For example, in Mother Yashoda, in Vraj, Mother Yashoda actually gives birth to a child in her maternity room. The Nitya Siddha gopis are married in ceremonies to gopas, such as Abhimanyu and Govardhan Gop. And on this very real basis, I have Parakiya Abhiman. Thus, the various Abhimans of Golok are present in Braj Gokul in a very tangible form. In truth, all this is orchestrated by Krishna's Yogamaya potency and has extremely subtle links with the original primary truth. Not the least part of these leelas is false, and all aspects are facsimile of Goloka. Difference in perception occur on account of various degrees of obstructing mundane consciousness in the viewers. So what do you understand by this? So what he's saying is that in the earthly realm, these Abhimans, for example, now what is this Abhiman? Abhiman is thinking that I am the son, I am the parent of Krishna, right? And I gave birth to Krishna. You know, if that kind of mentality, that kind of conception is there, then that conception in the earthly realm becomes manifested, because in the earthly realm there is birth, there is death, there is old age, or you can say for the Lord it is appearance, disappearance. Okay, and for the associates of the Lord, it's all appearance and disappearance. So that conception in the spiritual world, it transforms itself into gross or mundane forms. Why? Because in the mundane world, we cannot understand anything without physically seeing something. Okay, now this Abhiman, this conception, these all in the mental state. But when we actually see something in the gross senses, then we actually realize and understand that, oh yeah, something is really present. Okay, and that's why these conceptions in the spiritual world, these Abhiman, that manifest when Krishna does lila in the material world, then it has to manifest in the form of physical appearances of these conceptions. So what is the conception? Conception is that my husband is Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu manifests himself in the form of a physical form. Okay, and who is Abhimanyu? Abhimanyu is actually the husband of Srimati Radharani. And it is said that he is actually the expansion of Krishna. He is the shadow of Krishna. Okay, the shadow of Krishna takes the form of Abhimanyu. So by Yogmaya's Shakti, Yogmaya's potency, all these husbands, they are all actually none other than they are the transformations of the spiritual conceptions that the devotees they have in the spiritual world. Okay, so they take on the forms, they take on gross form and subtle forms. So I hope you are able to understand this concept. Now, why do we require this kind of approaches? Because as I said, that without this, we cannot understand anything in the physical realm. In the physical space, in order to accept Parakiya Rasa in the material world, you need to see something live. You need to see something physically present. Then only you will be able to accept that there is something which is Parakiya in nature. And that's why the conception takes the avatar of, takes the form of the physical forms of all these personalities. Okay. Now, someone who is already liberated and who has attained the level of prema, who is fit to go to the spiritual world. Now, because his entire body has become spiritual, that's why there is no, I mean, he does not need to, there is no differentiation for him between the pastimes of Krishna in Gokul and in Goloka. There is absolutely no difference. He sees everything as it is. So he also develops this conception that I am the wife of a particular Gopa. Okay. So as long as you're materially contaminated, you have these material perceptions, then through that degree, you'll have to view something physical in the form of your gross eyes. But gradually by bhakti, when you get purified, you reach the higher stages of asakti, bhava, prem, then the material conceptions will all become nullified, and what you'll have is only a spiritual body remaining. So in that spiritual body, all the distinguishing factor between material and spiritual will all become nullified, and then you will see the spiritual world as it is, whether you are in the material world or in the spiritual world. Okay. So so Vrajnath, one second. Okay, so there is another personality I forgot to mention, Vrajnath, and he is the uncle of Vijay. And so they are both disciples. They are both Siksha disciples of Gopal Guru Goswami, and they are taking his shelter and they are asking questions. So Vrajnath, after concluding his bhajan, put his japa beads aside and retired for the night. Okay, one second. Okay. So so now Vijay Kumar, however, he had one thought that kept turning his mind again and again. How does Krishna accept the role of Upapati of paramour? So Krishna is the supreme truth, and Shaktiman Krishna and Shakti are not different. So even if Shakti were to be separated from Shaktiman, how could Shakti be considered married to another Gopa and Krishna is the Upapati? So see, this is a frequently, I mean, once you ask question to a superior and then he answers, then there are further questions. So this is what exactly Vijay is doing. And now he's asking this question that how can the Shakti be married to another Gop? Right? Okay, so initially he thought that I will ask Srila Gurudev this conundrum tomorrow, but then reflected, perhaps turning to this topic would be inappropriate. Yet, it's better if the confusion is dispelled. So eventually, Vijay's ponderings were assuaged by the gentle kisses of caress of sleep. But all at once, he found himself before his Gurudev in a vivid dream, submitting the very mystery that had so insistently beset his mind. Now, Vijay heard the reply of his Gurudev in the dream very distinctly. So, Gopal Guru Swami says that, dear son, Krishna is fully independent in all his activities. His desires are unimpeded and absolute. His eternal desire is that his Madhurya Ras should be fully revealed and predominate over his Aishwarya. Accordingly, he has given a separate identity to his divine Parashakti, who subsequently manifests countless millions of stunningly beautiful gopis to serve him eternally with tender loving care. However, Krishna is not fully satisfied by service influenced by perception of his Aishwarya. So by exhibiting a fabulous aspect of his Yogamaya Shakti, he arranges for all the gopis to adopt the abhiman of being the wives of gopas in the idyllic village of Braj Vrindavan. As a result, the gopis live in their individual households, identifying with their status as the married women of Braj. In concert with this abhiman, Krishna joyfully assumes relationship with the gopis in the role of Upapati. So out of love for relishing Parakiya Rasa, Krishna is allured into transgressing his inner Atma Ramata Dharma of being infinitely self-satisfied. He engages in gorgeous pastimes such as the Ras Lila with his beloved gopi sweethearts, who aptly consider themselves married to the other gopas. His Vamshi becomes his Priya Sakhi to initiate these intimate pastimes of bliss. To facilitate Krishna's perfect enjoyment of Parakiya Rasa, Parakiya Bhav is eternally displayed in Goloka, wherein innumerable sylvan boars such as Keli Vrindavan remain eternally in pastoral splendor as sites for his amorous play. The site of the Ras Lila, the Yamuna river, the Govardhan, all places of Krishna's Vraj Gokul pastimes are completely available in Goloka. In this way, Parakiya Bhav and Swakiya Bhav are present in Golok as elements to churn delightful ras from the ocean of Krishna's most intimate pastimes. Actually, Shuddha Swakiya Bhav, the purest form of conjugal mood, reigns resplendently in Vaikuntha. Parakiya Rasa is unique to Vraj Vrindavan, and though viewed as illicit from the moonlit platform, ultimately the Vraj gopis must be regarded as Krishna's eternal conjugal consorts, immersed in the moods of Swakiyatva, conjugal faithfulness, and Dampatya, conjugal love towards him beginninglessly. So here it's mentioned that both of the Leelas, they coexist simultaneously, Swakiya and Parakiya. And one needs to understand very thoroughly that ultimately they are Krishna's eternal consort. Okay, so this is done only to show that Krishna wants to enjoy external. That's it. Otherwise, of course, they are all like internally, they are all part and parcel of him. So Parakiya Bhav is sustained in Golok by Abhiman. As I was sharing earlier, that in Goloka there is only Abhiman, there is only spiritual conception. In Vraj Gokul, Abhimanyu and other Gopas are avatars of their respective Abhiman in Goloka. In Vraj Gokul, these Gopas take birth and become the husbands of Gopis in order to foster the pastimes of Krishna, making Krishna the Upapati and essential Nayaka of Vraj Leela. So one thing we also understood from this is that the Gopis are expansions of Krishna and the Gopas, they are also expansion of Krishna ultimately, because they are all avatars of the Abhiman, and Abhiman is basically the arrangement of Yogmaya's potency. So one can say that it is indirectly Krishna's potency only. These are all the Gopas, they are all ultimately Yogmaya's expansion. Okay, so this is also very clear. Let's go further. So similarly, far beyond the reach of the external material nature, in the transcendental abode of Goloka, all the varieties of Abhiman fully nurture Ras. In Gokul manifest within the material world, the Abhimans of Goloka demonstrate their individual existence when Yogmaya arranges for them to take birth. So in Goloka, Abhiman, just by having Abhiman, everything is displayed completely. But when the same Abhiman is actually meant to be displayed in the material world, because Abhiman is a spiritual conception, so that's why it is beyond space and time. That's why Yogmaya has to intervene and she has to arrange things in the material world. And so whatever conception is there in the spiritual world, that is all manifested physically in the material world by the arrangement of Yogmaya. So for the gopis, this creates the experience of being married. However, in their eternal love for Krishna, the Vraj gopis transgress the strictures of marriage, and thus Parakiya Rasa is fully nurtured in Gokul. This is all the play of Yogmaya. So the doubts of Vijay Kumar dissipated as the dream faded away. His understanding that the transcendental abode of Goloka in the spiritual sky manifests as Gokul in the material world became a firm conviction. The ecstatic revelation of this Tadatmya Swarup, own spiritual identity, own individual spiritual identity in Raj Ras began to gather momentum within his heart, and so his meditations upon the eternal Ashtakalya Lila of Raj now turned deep and resolute. Okay, so now Vijay Kumar proceeds and he asks another question. So, Gurudev, I have no comprehension of Krishna Kripa, the mercy of Krishna. Yet I am firmly convinced that your mercy is a cause of all my spiritual progress. I have stopped trying to force myself to perceive Golok, being now very satisfied to realize Vraj Gokul. Now I wish to understand properly the varieties of Vraj Ras. Kindly explain if the unmarried gopis of Gokul, who maintained the mood that Krishna would be their husband, may be called Swakiya or not. So if you remember, we have in the Bhagavatam, there is a chapter which is basically which is called as the gopis. They are worshipping Katyayani in order to attain Krishna as their husband. So what is that? Is that not Swakiya? Because ultimately they are getting married to Krishna. Because we are saying that Parakiya is existing in Braj. So then what is this particular relationship of the some of the gopis? And these are not Radharani's associates. Okay, I mean the maid servants. They are not directly in the Radha's group. They are some other gopis. So they are asking for Krishna to get married to themselves. So now who are these and what is the relationship? Is it Swakiya or Parakiya? So Gopal Guru Goswami says, yes, since they maintain the firm conviction that Krishna will be their husband, these unmarried gopis attain at that particular time Swakiya Bhav. Intrinsically, however, the Gokul gopis are connected to Krishna in Parakiya Bhav. So what is the meaning of this? What he's saying is that ultimately all the gopis in Gokul, in Vraj, they are connected to Krishna in Parakiya Ras. How? That he will explain. So there are one set of gopis who are directly connected to Krishna in Parakiya Ras. Other set of gopis, they get married to Krishna after some time. So Gopal Guru Goswami is saying that these devotees, these gopis, they had Parakiya earlier because they are not married to any other husband currently. And at the same time, they are also they have not yet thought of getting married to Krishna. So for some time, they had Parakiya Swabhav, and then later on, they chose to get married to Krishna. So at the time they started worshipping Krishna as their husband, that time it becomes Swakiya Ras. But how it was Parakiya earlier, that is also described by Gopal Guru Goswami. So he says, in this particular case, although these unmarried gopis are not ultimately of Swakiya nature, their Swakiya Bhav is perfectly integrated into Gokul pastimes because their desired marriage to Krishna is eventually fulfilled in secret style by Gandharva Vivaha Riti. So there are different types of marriages, and Gandharva type of marriage is that it is done secretly without informing anyone. So that's why he's saying that it's eventually fulfilled in secret by Gandharva Vivaha Riti, the Gandharva right of marriage by the mutual exchange of garlands. And that's why it can be mentioned as Parakiya, because it is not completely formal. It has a tinge of informality also. It is done secretly. Okay. Now next question. So Vijay Kumar is asking, Gurudev, I am steadily comprehending Krishna as Nayaka, his mood, characteristics, etc. Also that his pastimes as Pati and Upapati are both eternal. As Pati, he performs his pastimes in Dwarka, and as Upapati, he performs in pastimes in Braj. So as our beloved Krishna is Upapati, it is indispensable to my bhajan to learn something about the Braj Raminis, the gopis of Braj. So basically he's asking, now tell me something about the gopis of Braj. So Gopal Guru Goswami says that Krishna's concerts in Braj are all primarily in Parakiya Ras. For without Parakiya, Madhurya Ras cannot fully blossom to the highest pristine splendor. The Madhura Ras of the queens in Dwarka is restricted because of the formal conjugal relationship, whereas the Vraj Raminis are embellished with Shuddha Kam for Krishna, making their Madhura Ras unbridled and fearless, and this gives Krishna the greatest pleasure. Okay, so see, because of formality, the relationship is going to be restricted, and of course, you also have heard about familiarity breeds contempt, right? So once the relation becomes very intimate, very familiar, you get to associate with a person very closely every day, regularly, then that becomes familiar. So familiarity breeds contempt. So that's why you can take the relation for granted. And then our acharyas, they also explain that the Mahishis of Dwarka, they have to some tinge of to some tinge of degree, they have this desire to enjoy their own senses. Of course, they are all pure devotees, but to some, in a very refined way, they have a subtle desire to enjoy their senses in some occasions. Whereas the Vraj gopis, those are in Parakiya bus, bhav, they are completely free from this desire also. So totally selfless devotees. These are the Parakiya Rasa gopis. So now Vijay Kumar asks the question, kindly explain what is Gopi Bhav. So then Gopal Guru Goswami says that Krishna, son of Nan Maharaj, is a gop, and his most exquisite partners in Madhurya Ras are solely the gopis. The sadhaka who is eligible to practice Madhurya Shringar Ras must perform Krishna bhajan in the same manner as the gopis. He must assume in his mind that he is a Gopil Vraj, a maid servant under the guidance of immensely fortunate Vraj Vasini, female resident of Vraj. His only business should be strictly execute our instructions and lovingly serve Radha and Krishna. He must conceive himself as Paroda. Paroda meaning a gopi married to a gopa, who always desires Krishna's association. Only then he can evoke Parakiya Ras from within his heart. This Paroda Abhiman is the innate dharma of the Vraj gopis. And Srila Rupa Goswami writes in the verse number 19, Ujjwal Nilamani, that the Vraj gopis who maintain the Abhiman of being Paroda become wives of Gopas after a contrived marriage has been arranged by Yogamaya. However, they never consummate their marriages with their individual husbands. When these gopis are away from their homes on a lover's rendezvous with Krishna, again Yogamaya creates their exact replicas to be present in their houses. When the husband returns and sees his wife in the house, he considers that my wife is certainly at home. Thus, he can never develop any envy towards Krishna. So what Gopal Goswami is saying here is quoting Rupa Goswami from Ujjwal Nilamani, and he's saying that the Vraj gopis, they are maintaining this Paroda Abhiman, and although they see in so spiritual world is just a conception, and ultimately it is all Krishna's Yogamaya potency, it's all Krishna's internal energy which is acting into picture. But in the material world, these are physical forms, right? The husbands. But now, who are these physical forms? Ultimately, they are all expansion of Krishna's Yogamaya energy. So ultimately, they are all Krishna indirectly, right? So there is nothing to be bothered about, even if someone says that they got married to someone else, but they are all ultimately Yogamaya's expansion. And then Rupa Goswami is particularly saying that even when you consider from a fairly mundane point of relationship, husband and wife relationship, when the gopis, they were called by Krishna in the Ras Lila, so Yogamaya arranged in such a way that the Yogamaya created duplicate forms of the gopis, and the spiritual forms of the gopis, they went with the, I mean, they participated in the Ras Lila, they went, and the expansion, the Yogamaya forms, they remained with their husband. So the husband thought that they have never left only, right? So this is all arrangement of Yogamaya in the material earthly Gokul. Okay, next. Of course, we'll have more discussion on this later on. We have some excellent commentaries by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also that we'll go through. So that's how now, because they don't have that kind of relationship with these husbands, that's why the marriage is also not consummate. It does not complete because they do not intimately associate with them, and that we'll see later on. So there is never an intimate conjugal relationship between the Vraj gopis and their so-called husbands. In truth, these contrived husbands are the avatars in Vraj Gokul of the Paroda Bhav of the gopis in Golok. Their marriages are also Maik Pratyaya. So the marriage that is performed in the material realm is also Maik. It is illusory notion. Hence, there is no question of Vraj gopis being the wedded wives of these husbands or in relationship to Krishna's another's wife. Nevertheless, Paroda Abhiman is eternally present within the heart of the Vraj gopis. Were this Paroda Abhiman absent, then the Vrandas Ras engendered by the transgression of marriage vows, the impediments placed before the Upapati and the gopis, Vamata, contrariness, and Durlabhata, elusiveness, would never be natural and spontaneous. Therefore, to attain the bhav of Naika in Vraj Ras, that one should cultivate Paroda Abhiman is indispensable. Lakshmi Devi in Vaikunta is an example of someone who could not enter Parakiya Rasa since she does not cultivate Paroda Abhiman. So Vijay is asking, what is the process of cultivating Paroda Abhiman? One must, Gopal Guru Goswami says, one must meditate, thinking. I have taken birth in the home of a Gopa in Braj. And when I reached the proper age, I was given in marriage to a youthful Gop. When such meditation intensifies, then the desire to attain Krishna's intimate companionship gains momentum. In this way, one assumes the mood of a gopi yearning for Krishna in unconsummated marriage. This is the cultivation of gopi bhav. So, coming to the original question, what is a gopi bhav? Gopal Guru Goswami has elaborated on that. Okay. Okay. So now, next question is, Vijay is asking, in Madhurya Rati, do the differences of ras in the form of Swarkiya and Parakiya exist eternally? So Goswami says, yes, Swakiya and Parakiya are eternal ras, and the distinction between them is not material designation. If this were so, then all rasas, including Madhurya ras, could be seen as based upon material distinctions and thus material in nature. Therefore, one should understand that the rasas are manifested eternally based upon the transcendent reality. Whatever eternal innate ras the soul possesses becomes the soul's eternal creedal ras with its concomitant ruchi, taste, bhajan, application, and prapti, perfection. So Swakiya ras is also present in Braj. In that ras, those who perceive Krishna as their husband and thus identify themselves as his wives eternally possess ruchi, bhajan, and prapti according to their individual status. So you must comprehend the Swakiya of Dwarka Lila is a manifestation of Vaikuntha Tattva, while the Swakiya Bhav of Vraj Lila is expansion of Golok Tattva. Thus, the Swakiya Bhav of Vraj Lila is of distinct and higher status. You may perceive this same truth in another way as follows. The Swakiya Bhav of Vaikuntha is related to the Tattva of Sri Vasudev, who is basically Krishna's Chaturvi expansion, who is in his highest manifestation in Golokadham. So what he's saying is that both of the Swakiya and Parakiya, they are eternal ras. If it was not eternal, it would have been considered as mundane. And if it was mundane, then we could not have justified Madhurya ras to its pinnacle, because Madhurya ras can only develop when it is Parakiya. So of course, both has to be eternal. And yeah. And of course, depending on one's nature, inclination, one develops a particular mood with the Lord, whether Swakiya or Parakiya. And then he says that there are two, the Swakiya ras exist in two places, one in Dwarka, one in Vrindavan, Braj. The Swakiya ras of Braj is, of course, elevated because also it's more intimacy. Whereas Swakiya Bhav of Dwarka is actually kind of non-different from the Swakiya Bhav of Vaikuntha Tattva, which is Lord Vishnu. And of course, the Vasudeva expansion of Krishna is in Mathura and Dwarka, and that is considered to be like Lord Vishnu, because there is formality in the relationship. Okay. So now we have heard this from Jai Dharm, and I would like to share one more thing which is very important to clarify, because Srila Jeev Goswami, I mean, I don't know how many of you have read the Gopal Champu or the conclusions of Srila Jeev Goswami on this topic about Parikya and Swakiya. But in his writings, Jeev Goswami says very clearly that this is the ultimately the Parikya Ras that culminates into Swakiya. Because finally, whatever Parikya Ras is also taking place, ultimately they are concerns of Krishna. So it ultimately gets resolved in Swakiya. So now this kind of philosophy that Jeev Goswami has presented, idea he presented to his disciples. So what was the reason? So it is, again, it is mentioned in Jai Dharma, and it is also mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. So we'll go through that. So Vijay is asking this question. I have heard that the great preceptor, Srila Jeev Goswami, was in favor of Sambandha in Swakiya Bhav. Is this true? See, the question is raised because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, all the acharyas, they are promoting Parakiya Ras, and that's the highest mode of worship. Okay, everyone is unified in that. Now, why Jeev Goswami is taking a different stand, and because being the most prominent acharya of our sampradaya. So Gopal Guru Swami answers. So he says that none of the intimate followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is bereft of pure Parakiya Bhav. Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami is the foremost exponent and preceptor of Parakiya Ras. He has unequivocally propagated Shuddha Parakiya Bhav, and Srila Rup Goswami, Sanatan, Jiva are his students and fully ascribe to this mood and tattva. Srila Jeev Goswami, being naturally situated in Parakiya Bhav, certainly never exhibited a preference for Swakiya Bhav in his personal bhajan. So when he was personally doing bhajan, he of course was a worshipper of Parakiya Bhav. However, he took note of the fact that some devotees in Braj were practicing Swakiya Bhav. At the stage where Samartha Rati, boundless attachment, is slightly flavored by Samanjas Rati, balanced attachment, the Swakiya Bhav of Vraj Lila manifests. So now see, there are three types of Rati. One is Samanya, one is Samartha, and Samanjas, and one is Samartha. So Samartha Rati is the Rati of the Gopis, Raja Gopis, who are in Parakiya Ras. Samanjas Rati is the Rati of the queens of Dwarka. Okay. So now, he observed that there are certain devotees who are against Parakiya mood, and they are not favoring, because they are thinking, they are not digesting, they are not able to digest the concept that Krishna can have paramour affair with the gopis. So that's why they are worshipping Krishna in Swakiya Ras, and in order to enhance their faith, not to disturb their faith, Jeev Goswami is basically also giving teachings which is promoting Swakiya Ras. So this is what Gopal Guru Goswami is trying to convey. So Samartha Rati is the Rati basically. Samartha Rati means Parakiya, the mood of the gopis in Parakiya Bhav. So when that is mixed with Samanjas Rati, then the Swakiya of Vraj Lila manifests. Okay, so so that's why there were some devotees in Vraj who wanted to worship Krishna in Swakiya Bhav in Vraj. So as we discussed earlier, that there are two types of devotees in Vraj, gopis. One is worshipping in Swakiya, one is in Parakiya. Now, one more thing we have discussed, that both, although one is Swakiya, one is Parakiya, ultimately the Swakiya one is also to some degree Parakiya, tinged with Parakiya, because the marriage is done in a secret way. Okay, so this also we have to keep in mind. So Srila Jeev Goswami had two group of disciples, one aspiring to have Parakiya Bhav, another aspiring to have a mixed Swakiya Bhav. Therefore, Srila Jeev Goswami gave instructions that took into consideration both tendencies of Ruchi amongst his disciples. This fact is unambiguously conveyed in his composition of the following shloka in his Lochan Rochani Tika on the Ujjwal Nilamani. So Jiva Goswami, now how do we understand that Jiva Goswami promoted both these moods? And it was done only to favor his disciples in Swakya-ras. So that it's there in the Ujjwal Nilamani commentary. He says that Swa Ichchaya Likitam Kinchit. So what he says is, Jiva Goswami, he says, I have written what is suitable for devotees who are inclined in a particular way. So from this, we get a hint that it is actually Srila Jiva Goswami did this because of some reason. It is not because he personally believed in it. He personally had that kind of mode of worship. Okay, Jiva Goswami's mode of worship is pure Parakiya, and he's also Vilas Manjari. Right, we know that. Now, similarly, Srila Prabhupada ji also, in his purport to 10th Adillah 10th chapter 85 number verse, he says that according to another accusation, Srila Jiva Goswami did not approve of the principles of Parakiya of Vrat Dham and therefore supported Swakya-ras, showing that Radha and Krishna are eternally married. Actually, when Srila Jiva Goswami was alive, some of his followers disliked the Parakiya Rasa of the gopis. Therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, for their spiritual benefit, supported Swakya Rasa, for he could understand that Sahajas would otherwise exploit the Parakiya Rasa, as they are actually doing at the present time. Unfortunately, in Vrindavan and Navdeep, it has become fashionable among Sahajas in their debauchery to find an unmarried sexual partner to live with, to execute so-called devotional service in Parakiya Rasa. Forcing this, Srila Jiva Goswami supported Swakya Rasa, and later all the Vaishnava Acharyas also approved of it. Srila Jiva Goswami was never opposed to transcendental Parakiya Rasa, nor has any other Vaishnava Acharya disapproved of it. So Srila Jiva Goswami strictly followed his predecessor gurus and Vaishnavas, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami accepted him as one of his instructor gurus. Now, Rup Sanatan, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, they are all promoters of Parakiya Rasa. Okay, so of course, they all accepted Jiva Goswami's conclusion also. And of course, they understood that that was done for a particular purpose. So, all right. Okay, so with this, I think we would like to stop here because there are further principles that would require some detailed analysis and concentration also. So I think this is enough for now. And now let's take some questions if devotees, if they have understood or not, if they are confused or they have some doubts or comments. So let's take some questions now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the wonderful class about Parakiya and Swakya Rasa. It's a very high topic and we don't get to hear, so it's good to hear from you and understand these higher bhavas. Prabhuji, my question is, during Brahma Vimohana Lila, we know that Krishna took the form of all the gopas and calves, and then he was, and there is somewhere I read, I don't know if it's bona fide, that Krishna
married to the gopis.
Yes.
So
yes, so
actually this same thing I have mentioned in my book also, because there is the subject of Krishna's Raslila, because people, they frequently ask this question again and again, that how can Krishna enjoy with wives of other men? So I have quoted this reference from Garga Samhita. It is there in Garga Samhita. During this Brahma Vimohana Lila, when Krishna, because see, yeah, so that's why one can also say that these husbands, they were also expansions of Krishna ultimately, because that time they got married. So one can say that they were all expansions of Krishna only, like that. But yeah, but I don't think the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions about this. So definitely this is a different source. It's coming from a different source. But the way Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining this concept, it seems that it is very much in line with what Garg Samhita also says. So it is like, I think it could be accepted. So nothing wrong in stating that ultimately they are all expansions of Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So it's not really Parakiya, it's because if he got married during that time, it's Swakiya. But yes,
But
then they return.
it was not directly Krishna. These are like expansions of Krishna, and that too. So of course there are different types of expansions of Krishna. So we have this Swayam Roop, we have Swayam Prakash, and then we have the Swamsha expansion of the Lord. So these are all like the personal forms of the Lord, expansions. Like for example, Prabhupada also says, the Raslila, it was all Krishna, the same Krishna. Okay. And even in Dwarka also, when Narad Muni visits the 16,108 palaces, that time also Krishna is expanding himself. These are all same Krishna. So this is the Prakash form of the Lord. There's no difference at all. But then there are some indirect expansions. Okay. And these expansions are not directly Krishna, but they can be considered as Krishna, like that. So there are different categories of expansions. I mean,
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
in the sense that they had different physical forms. So if they were all Krishna, of course, we know that they were all like Krishna directly, but physically they looked like the Gopas. That's how Brahma got actually confused, right? So then later on, by his spiritual vision, he got to understand that they are actually all Krishna only. And then he saw the forms of the Vishnu forms, and then he saw the forms of Krishna, like that.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that. Another question I have is regarding, us jivas, conditioned soul, who are the marginal energy of the Lord, and then all the gopis are definitely, Vishnu Tattva. They're always, they cannot become material consciousness, but we have these two potencies to either take to spiritual or material. So, how can we compare ourselves to the Vishnu Tattvas? Can we get into their bhav of Parakiya, or is it we are always having this propensity to associate with the material, because that's the choice always, right? So I think the best we can get to is like Manjari, but not like the close associate of the Lord, right? Like direct.
Okay, so this is a bit technical, advanced topic. First of all, I would like to just clarify that the gopis, they are not Vishnu Tattvas, they are all the internal potency of the Lord. Shakti Tattva, basically. So Vishnu Tattva is basically the Ishwar Tattva, and he is basically the controller, and energy and energetic. So the Lord and his expansions, the Vishnu Tattvas, they are all energetic. And all these gopis, they come in the category of the energy. Of course, we also come in the category of energy: marginal potency, external potency, ladini, internal potency. These are all the energies of the Lord. So now, regarding with respect to the position that we can attain in the spiritual world, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preference was Gopi Bhartul Padakamilar Das 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 Anudas, which means maid servant of Srimati Radharani, Manjari Bhav. Because we identify, so of course there are different categories of Sakhis, different categories of Gopis, and Jayadharma Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes all these things in detail. So there is the Parama Prishta Sakhis, then those sadhakas who follow the Parama Prishta Sakhis. Now, who are the Parama Prishta Sakhis? They have got equal affection for Radha and Krishna, although they side with Radharani more, but they have equal attachment and affection for Radha and Krishna. So these are the Parama Prishta Sakhis. Now they are the friends of Radha and Krishna. So these are the Ashta Sakhis: Lalita, Vishaka, Tunga Vidya, Randevi, Sudevi, like that. Those sadhakas who follow in the footsteps of the Parama Prishta Sakhi, they attain the category which is called as Priya Sakhi in the spiritual world. So they are also as good as the Sakhis, but of course they are lesser in intensity of love. The Parameshwar Sakhis, they are described as having the highest love, prema, for the Lord. and below that comes Priya Sakhi. And now, who are the Manjaris? These are the Pran Sakhis, the eternal associates. They are Pran Sakhis. The Pran Sakhis are the ones who are the maid servants of Srimati Radharani. So now, how they are defined? They have more affection for Radharani than they have for Krishna. And this more affection for Radharani attracts Krishna more towards the Manjari. So the Manjaris, they have some so like they are very fortunate to participate in some very intimate and confidential pastimes where sometimes the Sakhis also cannot enter. And the Manjaris, they do not directly associate with Krishna, whereas the Sakhis, they can. So those sadhakas who follow these Prana Sakhis are called as Nitya Sakhis in the spiritual world. So all of the sadhakas that, like for example, us, we have aspiration. If particular devotee has aspiration for Madhuri Ras, then they can follow the footsteps of these gopis and they can attain these particular positions. And then finally, there is the last one category is the Sakhis. Now, Sakhis are the ones who have got more affection for Krishna. Okay, now these Sakhis, they are ultimately expansions of Radharani. And there is no category of sadhakas who can follow these Sakhis because there is no possibility of someone who has got more affection for Krishna than Sri Radha. Okay, because Krishna says that I favor more someone who is connected to my devotee, someone who worships my devotee. So those who worships my devotees, they are my most favorite, right? Like that. So of course, there is no possibility of anyone attaining Krishna without Radharani's mercy or without worshipping Radharani. So this Sakhi category is a specialized category and no one can attain that category. But those who develop more affection for Radha, they become Manjaris. And those who develop more affection, same affection for Radha and Krishna, they become the Sakhis. So this is the categorization. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially has propagated the Manjari Bhav. Okay. The Parakiya Rasa, Manjari Bhav. And of course, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu generally will attain this because ultimately our Ras is based on the previous impressions, based on impressions from the previous lifetimes and the association of devotees that we have associated in the past life or in this life. So that influences our rasa, our choice. And generally we attain that sthai bhav in the spiritual world. So these are all like advanced topics, technical details. I don't think we have to go much into details, but because I just chose this topic because it was necessary to establish that Parakiya Rasa has to be understood very thoroughly, and it has to be understood by devotees as well as from outside people, because there is always a constant allegation against Krishna that he is always enjoying with everyone. So that's why I felt that the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur presented this concept is excellent, and everything is clear, that no one can say that, no one can claim Krishna. So I hope it answers your question to some degree.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Premaras Prabhuji. This is really, eye-opening about Parakiya Rasa and like the highest place that us marginal energies can reach is either Sakhi or Manjari. Appreciate all the details, because we need to shoot for the moon to at least reach the sky. So knowing the highest limit possible lets us get into the right track. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, no problem. And one more thing I would like to add is that, because you also did mention about marginal potency. So yes, one thing also we should remember that we remain marginal potency only. Even after attaining the post of a gopi, we remain marginal potency only, tatastha shakti only. It's not that we become internal potency after attaining the position of a gopi in the spiritual world. So that is something that also we have to remember. Okay, all right. So any other question or comment?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question. Thank you for this class. It is very, very, I must say, you know, one has not been exposed to this level of knowledge, and it's a very high level, I must say, for me at least. So, my basic question, Prabhuji, is that what is the Lord trying to teach us by these intimate pastimes? I mean,
Yeah.
there must be some learning for us.
Yes, yes, of course. I think Srila Prabhupada does mention the purport. He says that he does this in order to attract the conditioned souls. And later on, we'll also go through where it is very clear that these pastimes are because we are attracted to sexual relationship in the material world, and sex is the highest form of enjoyment. It gives the highest form of pleasure, and that is what the Lord is trying to say, is that when you hear Krishna's pleasure pastimes with the gopis, then the reverse effect will happen. So see, when we hear about mundane sex life, then our eagerness to have it more will increase. But when we hear Krishna's pastime with the gopis, of course, it has to be heard from a pure devotee, because pure devotees can explain everything properly with Siddhant, with the right knowledge and everything. And of course, they will also share the qualification that is required to hear and to appreciate these pastimes. But the purpose is to attract the conditioned soul to Krishna's pastimes, because loving affairs is the highest form of affair in the material world. So Krishna wants to attract the conditioned souls, and at the same time, he also wants to establish that he is beyond dharma. He is the one who makes, whatever he does is dharma. He also wants to establish that. But of course, the way he does it, that has to be only understood mahajano yena gata panta. Dharmasya tattvam nitam guayam mahajano yena gata sapanta. So that's why Krishna's personality is the most complicated and it is the most controversial personality, because Krishna has only done such kind of activities. You will see that Lord Ram was very dharmic in nature. He only accepted one wife. Ek pati vrat, he was fully maintaining that vow throughout his life. But Krishna, he actually broke apart all the lower dharmas, and he was actually setting a higher dharma, the highest dharma. So that's why Krishna also says in the Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo. Now, someone who is committing sin, how can he give us relief from sin? So that is something to be thought of. We can easily understand that whatever Krishna is doing, it has to be highest dharma. That's why he is able to nullify our sinful reactions, right? So by performing the pastimes, he's showing one thing very clearly, that the absolute truth is beyond everything, whatever you feel and think about, beyond your mental perception, beyond dharma, dharma. Okay, that has to be also established, because otherwise, how will he show that is the absolute truth? Because as I said, that the absolute truth is complete in everything, is infinite. So there is every possibility in the absolute truth. Everything has to be there. So he can create dharma, he can break dharma, he can be beyond dharma, he can follow dharma. Everything is depending on his will and choice. So this is absolute truth. And who has shown that? That is only shown by Krishna, because Krishna displays maximum qualities amongst all the forms of the Lord. The Lord, see, all the forms of Lord, they are eternal. But who is displaying the maximum qualities? It is only Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also did not touch this aspect. He did not worship in Parakiya Rasa because he took sannyas. So he has to preserve that identity. He cannot, so he was extremely strict. Now, that's why Srila Prabhupada also says in the beginning that people are attacking Krishna for his character, but then you just see who is talking about Krishna. Sukdev Goswami, of course, later on, what I understand is that he got married, but when he narrated the Bhagavatam, he was brahmachari, and he was fully realized, he was liberated soul. So he is the one who is actually glorifying the Ras Leela of Krishna. Then it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is the greatest sannyasi, who was so strict that he banished Chota Haridas from his company, just because he had glanced, and he saw a woman, Madhvi Devi. So he banished him from his association. So, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was even afraid of hearing from a woman, what to speak of, like he was not even willing to see a doll of a woman. To that degree, he was very extremely strict, and he was very strict on his sannyasi followers also. So such sannyasi is also glorifying Krishna's Parakiya Rasa with the gopis. Bhishma Dev also, when he's on the deathbed, now he's the Naishtik Brahmachari. He never got married and he had taken a vow of Brahmacharya. So on the deathbed, Krishna is actually Bhishma Dev is recollecting Krishna's pastime with the gopis. So you see, Brahma, Shiva, when Rasla is performed, all these devatas, they are coming and they are eager to participate. Lakshmi is eager to participate. Shiva is eager to participate. He's becoming Gopeshwar Mahadev. Lakshmi cannot enter because he is not able to adopt that Paroda of Abhiman as described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? So you see which personalities are worshipping the Rasla of the Lord. So it does not make sense to blame the character of Krishna, right? It's a mundane thing. Like people, because they're not aware of these facts, they just want to blame the Lord. So all these things are established by Krishna because he's the last avatar. So last avatar, the maximum display of qualities, and he's the one who can only display all contradictory characteristics in one pastime, in his appearance. Right? So now I hope you understand. And of course, what is the effect of that? By hearing Krishna's pastime, by hearing his stealing pastime, by hearing his killing pastime, by hearing his lustful pastime with the gopis, what is the effect? The result is we get attracted to him and our lust is gone. Otherwise, in the mundane world, the more we indulge in lust, the more we lustier become, right? So we have to understand all these things through the civic frustration of the Mahajans. Then we'll get everything to know.
So, Prabhuji, the thing is that we haven't described, or maybe it's come later, that why is it called intimate pastimes? Because they've not explained the emotions amongst, right, gopis and the
So
Lord.
intimate pastime means it is a very intimate relationship in terms of you totally forget that the Lord is the master or he is Bhagwan. Then you just treat him like a family member. Okay. Now so see, now Madhurya Ras we know.
So,
The most intimate
Prabhuji,
relationship.
one second, Prabhuji, so it's not romantic at all,
What is not
is it?
romantic?
The relationship
Which relationship?
between the gopis and the Lord.
It's not romantic? How it is not romantic?
No, I'm asking, I don't know.
I mean, just consider any romance of a mundane material world. So what happens? A girl gets attracted to a boy gets attracted to a girl, and then they try to meet each other. But many times what will happen? The parents are not agreeable, so then they will try to oppose the marriage. They will try to oppose the meeting. So all these impediments are there. Now, when the impediments are there, then only your intensity can go to another extreme level. If everything is very easy, everyone agrees, chalo, marriage is done. Then where is the masala? Where is the mixed, different flavors of emotion? Where is the intensity of love which is coming out? You cannot appreciate someone unless you are separated from that person. You know that principle? Unless, so, when you are separated from someone, you will recognize the value of that person more. But when you are close to someone, you are always together, then you cannot appreciate to that extent. Right? So that's why there are impediments in the relationship. The more impediments are there, the more the chance of meeting are less. The more things you have to you need to convey in a very secretive way. You cannot openly express. Okay, I will tell you one thing very interesting. I request all of you to hear very attentively. A very interesting concept. The question is, although we know that Hare Krishna Mahamantra is Radha Krishna Mahamantra, right? We Acharyas, they say that Hare means Radharani, Krishna means Krishna, and Ram also means Radha Raman. One who gives pleasure to Radharani is known as Ram, right? So everything, all the names are Radha and Krishna. So the question is that why not give directly Radhe Sham, Sham Sham, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Why Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Why Hare Krishna and then Ram? It seems that we are taking the names of Hari, Krishna and Ram, Lord Ram. Initially, I also thought like that it does not, I mean, I thought it is like, glorifying the names of Krishna and Vishnu like that. But then after coming to ISKCON, we got to know that, okay, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is actually addressing Radharani and Shyam Sundar. So why? Because this, so see, this is something that is not directly stated in the books of the Acharyas, but this is something I've heard from our Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees. And it seems very logical. So if you consider the Parakiya relationship with the gopis, Krishna's Parakiya relationship with gopis. Now Manjaris, they are assistants of Srimati Radharani, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, what is the speciality of Hare Krishna Mahamantra? What is the speciality of uniqueness of Manjari Bhav? Manjari's Bhav is that, as I shared earlier, that they do not directly associate with Krishna. They always want to see Radharani associated with Krishna, right? So now, what happens? This is a secret affair. Parakiya Rasa is a secret affair. The Manjaris, they want to assist Radha and Krishna in order so that they can meet together, or their relationship is not exposed, right? Now just imagine if openly, now it is also mentioned this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the mode of worship of the Manjaris. And even Srimati Radharani also chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And I will explain to you how it happens. Okay. So now from the point of view of Manjaris, we know that Hare and Krishna means Krishna, Radha and Shyam. From the point of view of Srimati Radharani, when she is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare becomes Krishna, because Hare can also mean Krishna. One who steals everything is also called Hare. That is Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram. Now Ram also can refer to Krishna, as we know. Right? So now when Radharani is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all the words of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it means the names of Krishna for Radharani. When Krishna is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all the words, especially Krishna, Ram, they all refer to Srimati Radharani. They all become Radha for him, because he thinks Krishna means Srimati Radharani. He thinks Ram means the one who is giving me pleasure, Ramaniya, or Rama, the goddess of fortune. That becomes Radharani. Okay. So for Krishna, for Radharani, it becomes a relative concept, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Similarly, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the sadhakas or those who are manjaris of Radharani, it's a conceptual mantra. Conceptual means that you can play with the meanings of Hare and Krishna and you can derive at a particular. That's why Prabhupada also said that the devotees of Lord Ramchandra, they can also chant Hare Krishna and they can attain perfection. So now they are chanting Radha and Krishna's name and they are worshipping Lord Ram. No, for them Hare and Krishna becomes Ram and Sita. So they are thinking of Ram and Sita, and that is fully justified. And that's why Prabhupada also says that Ram here refers to Balram, it can refer to Lord Ram, it can also refer to Lord Parshuram. Okay, so now when the Manjaris, they chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, they cannot openly chant. Please understand this. They cannot call Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. It has to be covered, because then the relationship of Radha and Krishna will be exposed. Everyone will know. And they will think that why these gopis, they are calling out openly the name of, so something is fishy. Some illicit connection is there in the relationship. So that's why they cover it. And they say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So so someone will hear that, they will not even think that it is Radha and Krishna together. So it is the Hare Krishna and Ram. So they will think that it is name of Krishna and Ram, like that. Or Hari. So now you got it. So there are a lot of impediments in the relationship. And the more the impediments, the more your anxiety it will grow, and the more there is manifestation of higher levels of prema. Okay. And that makes the Parakiya Rasa most dear to the Lord, like that. So I hope you are able to follow, understand. You can just
Yes.
imagine any mundane relationship where there are a lot of impediments. If I am not able to meet my lover, I am always thinking of the lover. But if I get married
Yeah.
to that lover, then what will happen? Then I will say that, oh, anyways, now you are going to stay with me only, so it's okay. I will go here and there. You will not remember, right?
That's yes, Prabhuji.
So like
Very
that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. If there are no more comments and questions, then we can end the session here. So thank you all the devotees for joining, and we'll continue with the part 2 next time. I think a couple of parts we'll have to take because there's much.
Prabhuji, Madana Pranam, all Guru Shivapad Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. And it's just like, ocean of research and all that you do. It's and then, you're presenting to us. Really thankful and grateful to you for, presenting and, enlightening us. There are so many things in the class which we have never heard of. And so, with the coming of New Year, it's like we still want to learn more in this year before it gets ended, and you
it's
on the last
good
day.
that the new year culminated. I mean, the new year is beginning and we culminated with Parakiya Rasa.
Yes.
Coincidentally.
Thank you so much for taking this topic. Prabhuji took a couple of times in the week to decide on the topic, but it was just perfectly in the like puzzle of life. Thank you so much. I don't have a question, but I was just hearing and I just wanted the class to continue, and maybe we can continue more, like you mentioned, in the future.
Yeah. In fact, Mataji, if you now remember that I will be giving twice a month sessions, two
Yes.
sessions a month.
So we can also Hari Bol to Prabhuji for giving class twice in a month. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Thank you so much for
Hari
your love
Bol.
and affection and everything. Of course, everything, the entire credit goes to our glorious Parampara Acharyas. The nectar is already available. I think we just need to search it. That it's already there. We just have to discover and then we have to present. So I'm fortunate that I'm able to somehow get the nectar and then I'm able to present it to all of you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Thank you so much for this nectar class and such a beautiful explanation of the words. And
I think my success lies in devotees being able to understand what I'm presenting. If you are able to understand,
and we had good
then
chance to meet Prabhuji in Pune temple, NVCC temple. It was so nice to have his association.
But I had made a condition with Mataji that she was supposed to visit my house. Somehow that did not happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's pending, Prabhuji.
Next time definitely you have to.
Sorry, we couldn't come. It was too busy.
No, I understand. Like
Actually, my father had a stroke, and then I have to
Yeah.
be in the hospital. So that was also one thing.
Prabhuji also came to India, or he was in US only?
He was there too, but he was also with me in hospital. So yeah, he was there. So everything in the schedule messed up a little bit, but now with Krishna's mercy, devotee's prayers, my father is doing very well. Yeah, he had a pacemaker surgery. So yes, Prabhuji. That's why we couldn't come to your home. Sorry, but next time we'll plan it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I understand.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Pasindu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavi ki jai. Anantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Grace Premarasa Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare